Hello, I'm Mark.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about gas stations versus EV charging spots. But first, let's roll that title.
You're watching the Tesla Life Express!
Hello,
about adding miles to your... Oh, sorry. Talk about adding miles to your car.
Welcome to the show. Casey's jumping out front. He must have something to say.
He's going to get run over. Jump in the street like that.
Both ways.
We are going to talk a little bit about public charging sites that are out there compared to basically gas stations. Bloomberg came out with an article recently this week that talked a little bit about timetable. They believe that the number of EV public charging spots is going to surpass the number of gas stations by 2032. Basically 8 years from now is what they're reporting. Now, I was chatting with Casey and Patrick before the start of the show, and I thought 8 years, that seems a little bit long. Based on what we've seen, what I've seen here in my neck of the woods.
They didn't hit the sigmoid curve button. They just hit the linear.
That's right.
This is Bloomberg New
That's true.
Energy Finance, and they've done a pretty good job in the past. Unlike some of the other things with their predictions that have been linear and flat, or even IEA comes to mind. They've had a horrible prediction history, but Bloomberg New Energy Finance has done a much better job.
All right. And they shared a little graph in the article that I will share now.
Okay.
Let's go and take a look at this graph.
We don't need as many charging stations as gas stations, public charging stations as gas stations.
That's true as well. That, of course, is a public misconception too, right, Casey?
Mm-hmm.
You've got a lot of people out there that think that EVs have to go to a public charger during the day to get a charge to get home, where that's the furthest thing from the truth. Vehicles now typically have in the area of 250 to 300 miles of range. And those vehicles can easily, in some cases, go a week, depending on what that person is doing during their regular week, their commute, how far they drive. But the ultimate win here is that if there's a plug available in your driveway or garage or on the street, you get a full tank overnight by just sipping the electrons slowly throughout the evening.
Exactly.
Yeah, like right now you can look at a corner, it can have 3 gas stations on it. You don't need anything like that, except for where it's on like the turnpike or the toll oasis, where you've got a northbound and a southbound plaza. Then it wouldn't hurt to have one on each of those, but you don't need 3 on one corner. I mean, you might need 3 stalls, but you don't need 3 competing stations.
Right. And as we look at solutions like we talked about cool charging on here a while ago, and that if that helps people in multi-tenant dwellings and curbside parking, then that's going to be your dedicated charging spot. You charge up overnight, you wake up every morning with a full battery, and then you don't need public charging for the most part. You really only need it for road trips.
Towing, and when you're not in your hometown for some reason.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe a rental car or something.
Now, this is kind of interesting. Is this chart here is showing that, especially in 2024, there's been quite a jump when it came to first and second quarters for non-Tesla charging infrastructure. We've got the black bar showing non-Tesla. We've got the green showing Tesla. And of course, Tesla had a huge run at the beginning before the non-Teslas got involved. But here it is showing that we've got, in this case, over 704 new public fast charging stations, which boosted sites about 9% in just 3 months. So it's quite a jump into Q1 of 2024. And if that type of growth continues, you could definitely see that would put a huge dent in the charging infrastructure out there.
Yeah, we just saw Tuesday that Tesla's been kind of guiding around 30% additions to theirs, even through the supercharger scare of when Elon came back from Twitter.
Right.
This chart is nice, but I wish they also had the totals. So this is how many happened in that quarter, right? So to say Tesla installed, whatever 10% compared to the black bar, well, but how many do they already have? So
50,000. They're adding.
Yeah.
They're number 1,000. Like, there's a reason why you didn't need to add as many as they did.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, Patrick, I would say also that yes, to this point, there has been a big difference between Tesla and non-Tesla chargers in reliability and maintenance and availability. But we are hoping that into the future, Tesla's even hoping that the reliable stations, the reliable non-Tesla networks, will be able to be even displayed on Teslas for us to see as Tesla owners as to where reliable charging is, and be able to pick ones that are closest to us, ones that are possibly cheaper, or ones that are the most reliable. It's something that we'll be able to share, being a Tesla owner, with non-Tesla owners, as they are sharing in our current Tesla network.
Yeah, and we kind of have a little bit of that going today right now with, you got the Ford Charge Angels program where Ford sends somebody to each location and checks it out periodically. But then Tesla has the same program, essentially, they don't call it that, where every time you plug in, your car will evaluate the station. And once they cross above or below a threshold, your car will add or remove them from the map.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yep.
That's the nice thing about connected cars, is you can collect that data dynamically.
Exactly. And yeah, to this point, it's been an uneven playing field. Tesla has certainly reigned the king when it comes to charging stations and their network. Hopefully, and of course, we're going to have to see this proven with what Casey mentioned, with these live data being streamed around, showing us what these charge rates are. But hopefully, we're going to have other networks being able to pick up the slack and be able to perform as well as the current Tesla network does.
Yeah, when you talked about reliability, my little chuckle there was, well, what if we actually had a graph that was scaled by reliability? And that would be a slightly different story. That would change that look.
Yes, it would. Yeah, absolutely. And it's again, we have not been able to see this yet, because the current networks out there have had reliability problems. They've had maintenance problems. They've had all sorts of problems, even placement problems as to where they are. There have been some serious issues when it comes to how these other networks are operated or maintained. Hopefully, with the new influx that are starting to come out, that there will be, better charging infrastructure, and it'll be better rate from the start. One thing I did want to touch upon is there is a new network that GM and Flying J have been working on, and they're deploying all of these at Flying J and Pilot truck stops. They're putting up their own canopies in most cases, where you've got somewhere between 4 and 6 DC fast chargers underneath the canopy, and allowing people to charge. So that's a plus over existing charging stations now that are non-Tesla, where they're actually providing some shelter from the weather. If you're in the Northeast, if you're in the hot South, having a canopy over your head while you're charging for 20 minutes, that's a plus. And
very few of them have those right now.
And they've determined that this is the way that they're rolling out this network. And of course, the other plus is that these locations are right on freeways, right on off ramps, because trucking wants to be efficient with their fueling stops, and to be able to co-locate EV charging with those truck stops is going to give those EV people a leg up, because they're built for optimization, for speed of charge.
Right, and they have facilities.
That's right. They all have 24-hour facilities. Absolutely.
Whether it's a bathroom, a restaurant, a store. In some cases, they even have showers. if you're doing a long road trip, that might be a good idea.
And definitely some snacks, if not hot food, depending on exactly which wee hour of the morning you go.
Mm-hmm.
You got Mercedes has partnered with Starbucks to put in some of their own stations, and then you've got the amalgamation of now there were 7. Now that Toyota has joined up with, I forget the name already.
Yeah,
Starts with
too many
J.
names. Too many
many
names.
Yeah, they started out by picking out who it was, except for Toyota and their name, and then months later, Toyota said, "We're joining on this thing." But the beauty of both of those is they will have the JNAX port and CCS1, so that everybody can charge.
Right.
Oh, and Rivian. Don't forget Rivian.
Right.
They've been at this as long as they've been around.
So one of the local suburb cities here, Hillsboro, Oregon. This has been several years ago. They put out, so they have a environmental office under their city leadership, and they built a multimodal transit center. So it's a place where you can catch the light rail. They have bike paths that lead from there. They have car parking so that you can park and ride. And in the parking structure, on one of the levels, they installed a lot of level 2 chargers, or EVSEs, I should say. And so then they put out a press release talking about that. And they said, oh, by the way, we now have more EV charging than we have gas pumps in the city, which I thought was a pretty cool. And this has been several years. So they're certainly well ahead of the 2032 number. But the cool thing was, like, they put a right by town hall on the street parking, they have level 2s, and then at the parking garage they have a DC fast charger. So they're well ahead of the curve, and it's pretty sweet.
Let's take a look at the map when it comes to this particular article and the number of stations that are being filled out here. Oregon is certainly a darker green than most of the interior of the country. Although Washington and California looks like they got a little bit of a jump on Oregon overall. Texas is kind of a surprise that they're out this far. And then, of course, through the plain states, it's pretty light green in those areas. All the
I'd
way.
say that Texas is probably 2 or 3 cities doing that for the whole state. Same
could
with
be, could definitely be. But and then a push over to the East Coast, starting in Ohio. Although South Carolina, Casey, bit of a laggard, it looks like.
You gotta grease some palms to get things done here.
But that Mississippi and Arkansas are looking, and West Virginia, all looking pretty light.
They're earning their stereotype. That's what they're doing.
That's not looking too good at all. Alaska, I can kind of give that a pass based on the population. It's
same for Hawaii.
Exactly. But
Hawaii's beating Alaska.
Montana, North and South Dakota, Wyoming, Idaho.
Wyoming's a gas country.
Quite a bit of a EV desert crossing those states, it looks like, at this particular point. But again, we will see as time goes on if these numbers happen. Again, this article indicates 2032, 8 years from now, we're going to have more EVs, EV charging stations and gas stations. It's questionable. It's I think it's certainly it's going to happen. I think we're heading in that direction. We are the snowball that has gone over the top of the hill, and now we're just starting to gain speed and momentum. And I don't think this is going to stop based on what we see happening elsewhere in the world. It's just that North America is a little bit slower. We're not we're a little bit more conservative, and it's going to take us a little bit more time. But again, these are hopeful things that we're seeing on the EV landscape that are happening here now as well.
What about my Australian farmer friend in my comments? And for those of you who aren't aware of the Australian farmer, this is a sea lion that shows up in my comments saying about what about this, that, and the other, with a bunch of disingenuous or seemingly disingenuous scenarios and rebuttals to everything you can come up with.
The doubting Thomas of the comments.
Right. So my Australian farmer friend says that we can't do this because the grid can't support it. What do you guys say to that?
Oh my gosh, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Mhm.
We have way more capacity to deal with electric vehicles just because of the fact that the vast majority of EV owners will charge their vehicles overnight. And guess
Right.
what? Industry and business is typically not running at full capacity through the night. And we've
Mhm.
got that extra capacity because we do power them during the day. So guess
Mhm.
what? That energy can be redirected to store in batteries of vehicles that are charging overnight. And then those vehicles don't even have to charge during the day. That
Right.
takes it all away. It shifts the power required from during the day to overnight when the power is cheaper and it's more abundant.
Yeah. These people seem to assume that every EV in America is going to come home at 5:15 p.m. and plug in all together and brown out the grid. It's not the way it works. And
Not
even
at
if
all.
you say, "Oh well, the DC fast chargers for interstate travel, they use so much power. They use the same power as a small neighborhood." This is true, but they're not going to site them in places where they're going to get themselves uh, extreme overage charges for demand fees. And if
Mhm.
that is the only place to put a station, they're going to back it with a battery where they can trickle charge this thing either overnight or just slowly throughout the day, and then they can spit out the power that you need to go on your trips as you come through.
Exactly.
And the other thing, as Patrick has mentioned many times, is that the consumer is smart enough to know what rates they're being
Yes.
charged.
Oh, you
Oh
mean
yeah.
So
if I
guess
plug in
what?
at midnight, I can get it for free versus if I
They
plug in at 6, I have to
so
pay $30?
therefore they are going to adjust how they charge to make it better financially for them at any given time. So yes, you may have the odd person that comes in and charges at peak rate, but you know what? The vast majority of us are looking for a deal. And we're
Mhm.
going to adjust our charging, or the timers in our EV will adjust the timing so that we benefit from the lower rates at different times that the utilities know that they have surplus.
Yeah, and if for some reason the $10,000 EV, when it comes out, doesn't have a timer built into the software, you can buy a 240-volt timer, at the hardware store.
Yeah,
Yep,
they're cheap. Yeah, I have one for my pond pump, and yeah, so I can control when it runs.
Exactly.
exactly. So, yeah, I think this is good news to see. We certainly are well in tune with the Tesla world as we watch the advancement through that famous app that we see all the time, our website. What is it?
That info.
Supercharge.info,
Yeah.
where we keep track of that. Actually, have you guys noticed that supercharge.info has a sister site for all other EV chargers?
I haven't
Just
noticed
Oh,
that yet.
they just put that out recently.
Okay.
cool.
You can, and it's got the same map, the same
Nice.
abilities. So if you're familiar with supercharge.info, check that out. That's kind of cool to see for all other chargers.
Yeah.
But
I think another nice retort to these people that saying it can't work, it shouldn't work, I don't like it. Well, you should like it. I'm making your gas cheaper until it's unprofitable
Right.
to make
Yeah, have
gas.
you heard of supply and demand? If if I'm not demanding it, then there's more supply. You can get it cheaper.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to find out with a quick Google of how many gas stations there are in the U.S., and I'm not getting
Because they
an
keep
easy
closing.
answer. But yeah, so it looks like there at least at some point there were 130,000 of them.
Okay,
So
that sounds right.
if in 8 years we can surpass that, that sounds great. They've had a
I think we
100-year head start. So asking for us to win in 8 years isn't too bad.
Hey, they started it in the pharmacist, they're gonna end at the pharmacist. Let me get
Yeah,
my meds and a gallon of gasoline, please.
there will be a point when there aren't enough gas cars on the road to make it economically viable to be a gas station only. It'll
Yeah.
instead have to, be a Joe's Fuel Stop where they sell propane, methane, ethanol, whatever. And yeah, it won't be easy, quick and easy, convenient. It'll be more like hydrogen filling today. You have to
Yeah.
know exactly the 6 places you can go, and if you aren't near one of those, you're hosed.
Right, and that will happen eventually, but I don't think it's enough that any of these people that are freaking out about EVs need to try and stall the progress for. Because by the time, based on statistics of how old they are and what car they're running and how fast this should happen, you'll be gone probably
And keep in mind, we've said on this show many times, is that the gas station is not making money on gas. What they're making money on is the products they're selling to you while you pump gas. So the chocolate bars, the bag of chips, the pop. It's all things that could be easily replaced if those gas stations were to get on board, like Circle K is starting to do, and Esso on the Run here in Canada is trying to do. Is they're installing EV chargers at the gas station anyways. So they're providing people an option to charge, just like they fuel with their gas. When they're on a trip, they can just stop at the gas station. There's 3 or 4 EV pumps that they can go to besides the 12 gas pumps.
Yeah, and then that interview that I did with over in I think it was in Tacoma Park, over in Maryland with Dooley. He mentioned that he ripped out his gas pumps. Now he has customers that aren't in a rush to all right, I need one of those and all right, I'm out. They can take their time. And
he's got an audience that stays for 15, 20 minutes, right? So it's a whole different experience.
Yeah, they make bigger orders. Yeah.
One of the spots here in Oregon is Harrisburg. It's right off of I-5 and Main Thoroughfare, and there's a Tesla supercharger station there, and it's at a what used to be a gas station. And now they've torn out the gas pumps. They have the EV charging. They have a food truck, and they have a wine tasting room. And the food truck and the wine
tasting room.
Yeah, and it's a local farmer that owns it, and so it's grapes that they grow, and they own the food truck too. So I think that was just really smart of them. Like, hey, okay, we're not selling gas here, but these. Who's more likely to buy a bottle of wine? Somebody in their Toyota Corolla or somebody in a Tesla?
Right. And it's similar with Dooley's shop. He's got a food truck out front. They've got made to order food inside. He's got the quick lube shop. Not that you need much lube, but you're going to need tires and air pressure and stuff. So
yeah,
they can still do that.
And for those that are watching, please, in the comments, let us know what's happening around your town, your region. Are you seeing the transition? Do you see gas stations trying to transition to add EV infrastructure? Do you see gas stations closing, or are they expanding? What's happening around you? Put it in the comments and let us know.
I'll tell you who asked for it and didn't get their money. The convenience store operators of Florida. They got a funny website. You can check about it on the previous episode of the Tesla Life show. About what happened when they asked for their money. Come on, Florida, it's been 2 years. Where's our money so we can build some stations? Yeah. They got a website that looked like satire.
Oh, wow. That's intentional, I think.
Well, with that, I think we will wrap this conversation. Thanks so much for watching. Again, Casey, what do you got for us for a shout out?
So on Sunday, catch me over at youtube.com at Casey Green, and we'll chat with Let's Chat with Casey and Friends at 1:10 p.m. Eastern, and then come back here on Monday at the same time here, 7 p.m. Eastern, and we'll have the second Tesla Life Express for the week. And then on Wednesday, we'll be on the Tesla Life Live show.
Absolutely. Patrick, any shout-outs?
If you're in Southwest Washington or Northwest Oregon, check out oeva.org/events to see what we've going on. I blog about my future free from fossil fuels at carswithcords.net. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks, Lee Moon, for the music we use, and we'll catch you next time on the Tesla Life.